want you to have a better relationship with your husband.
That came out all wrong. You get what I'm saying though, right? My name's Michelle Pava. I'm a licensed psychotherapist.
With my red ears because my lights are hot.
Anyway, let's talk about that husband of yours, shall we? He's not listening, is he? He's shutting down, and you're having the same arguments over and over and over again. And he is on your last nerve. I totally get it. So, what do you do when your husband or your friend or whoever is not really looking like they want to resolve the problem? They're shutting down, and deep down, you know, if the problem, whatever it is, was resolved, they would be happier. So why are they resisting it? Because they don't know how. And so it's up to you to do something completely different. Now, I know you have probably done everything you can think of and everything that's logical and everything that's rational. And now you're probably feeling very emotional or you're feeling hopeless. Not a good place to be. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to actually have the conversation, but not like in a relationship talk conversation, but just sort of bring up when it feels right. Hey, I know that this is causing a lot of disharmony, and I want harmony in our relationship, and I want to just feel harmony when I wake up in the morning. But when you're shutting down, and I'm shutting down, and I'm getting emotional, and you're getting emotional, nobody's happy. So I'm not saying that we have to solve it right now, this moment, but let's just think about, wouldn't it be nice to just wake up in the morning and feel like stress-free, feel like our relationship is exactly where we want it to be. Basically, you kind of go into a little bit of selling the sizzle. So you're going to basically stimulate that mindset of, hey, what would it be like if I did wake up in the morning and I didn't have to feel this way where I'm shutting down? You want to get to that place. You also have to bring up a little bit of the cost of not resolving this conflict, whatever the conflict is. So if the cost of not resolving the conflict is, we're going to have more relationship talks, let me tell you right now, that's going to cause fear. Because like I said, and I'm going to connect the video to it, relationship talks don't work. It's like a giant red flag. Women tend to like relationship talks more because we tend to communicate more, we communicate differently, and we like to feel heard. Men like to just grunt. No, I'm just kidding. They don't like to just grunt. That's mean. Well, it's kind of not true. Anyway, there's a lot of costs that you might not be thinking about. Like for instance, you might want to bring up, you know what, when we're arguing like this or when we're not resolving this conflict and we're just not talking about it, there's a lot of miscommunication happening. We're both putting walls up or we're both projecting different things, and that's not really who we are, and I don't like who we are right now as a couple. I don't like who I am right now with this thing, with this elephant in the room. And a cost of that problem that's happening might also be that your relationship just isn't where it could be. I mean, you could be having a lot more fun in life just by having this one problem resolved. Life could feel a lot better. The relationship could feel better. There might be more passion. So just like any big problem, break it up into small steps. So I know that you probably just want this whole thing done with and over with, and I get that, but it's not going to work that way. Now, maybe if you're with another female, that could work because you both are really aggressively wanting this problem to be solved. But usually when you're in a relationship with a man, if you're in a marriage, things have to be taken at smaller increments because they just don't want to feel like they're being bulldozed. So in order to do that, you just take one step at a time, but you kind of let them lead the way. So take whatever the problem is. Let's just say that you feel like he's on his phone too much. I'm just taking that as an example. So if you feel that, don't make it like all of a sudden he can't use his phone or he can't have his phone ever when he's around you. That's too big of a step. And I know it sounds silly. It sounds like you're talking to a teenager, but guess what? It's the truth. You have to take things in smaller steps. He's going to feel like you're being pushy, bulldozing, and you know what? You might feel the same way if he did it to you. So take things in smaller increments. So maybe he just doesn't have his phone out at the dinner table, and then you just keep adding to that. And you have to give positive reinforcement. So every time he's not on his phone and he's hanging out with you, mention after the fact, you know what, that felt really good. I just want to bring up that I noticed that you didn't have your phone out and I feel so good about that. Thank you so much. I know it was a sacrifice. Now, I know that's going to piss you off to even admit that, but it's true. It is a sacrifice. If somebody's in a habit where there's a problem that you perceive is the other person, when they make changes, those changes are huge. Just like any change that you make is going to be huge. So honor that. You have to evaluate your part in the conflict, even if you don't think that you are not the problem. It takes two, and this is absolutely truthful. But you have to really look at evaluating your part in the big picture. Even if you think that you were doing everything right, even if you think that you were doing everything to make that marriage or that relationship all that it could be, you have to take a step back and listen to him. And even if you don't agree with him, even if what he says sounds insulting or horrible or cold, just let him speak. Don't judge what he says, and I know you're going to want to, but don't judge what he says. And just really evaluate, is there any sliver of truth into what he said, or is it possible, even if it's not true, that he could perceive it to be true? Now, in those respects, you might need a therapist. Evaluate the situation. Going back to something lighter, like the phone, if he's scrolling through Facebook all of the time, maybe your part in this is that you're also on your phone, and you just don't want him on his phone when you're not on yours. Does that make sense? So really evaluate your place in the big picture. And remember, this is really big. The other person might actually have a very big investment in the problem. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but hear me out. If the other person has a really hard time at apologizing or being wrong, having a resolution is going to feel like they're giving up, or that they have to say they're sorry or admit that they're wrong. So you have to look at the end result. What does the person really want at the end? Do they really want a resolution? Sometimes the other person wants to take credit for solving the problem, and maybe you want the credit for solving the problem. It has to be a situation where both of you want the problem resolved, and you both want this to end up being a win-win. So it can't be passive-aggressive, where one person is bulldozing the other one and the other one's just kind of playing along. And it can't be aggressive, where you are bulldozing or they are bulldozing. And it can't be totally passive, where you're both not doing anything. It has to be a win-win for both of you. It all has to be just compromise and compassion and really caring about the end result being positive for both people. Don't forget to subscribe, and please sign up to the email so that we can keep in touch every week.